The golden spires of Aquesta gleamed in the setting sun as Lord Ethelred moved through the shadowy corridors of his mansion. Candlelight flickered against the tapestried walls, casting dancing shadows that seemed to whisper ancient secrets. The nobleman's footsteps echoed softly on the marble floor as he made his way to his private study, where 3 other figures waited in hushed anticipation. Among them, Lady Constance sat with perfect posture, her emerald dress catching the warm light of the fireplace, while Baron Del Monte nervously twisted his signet ring. The 4th figure, shrouded in a dark cloak, remained silent in the corner. "The time has come," Ethelred announced, producing an ancient scroll from his robes. "The Empire is weak, and the Church's grip loosens." As he unrolled the yellowed parchment, revealing cryptic symbols and forgotten prophecies, none of them noticed the slight movement behind the heavy curtains where Royce Melbourne held his breath, his keen eyes taking in every detail of the treasonous gathering. Marcus Thorne knew he was playing a dangerous game. The merchant's warehouse in the lower district had become a meeting point for those who dared to dream of a different future. Tonight, as rain pattered against the high windows, he watched Hadrian Blackwater demonstrate sword techniques to a group of wide-eyed apprentices. The warrior's fluid movements belied the deadly precision of each strike. But when the door burst open, bringing with it a gust of wind that extinguished half the lanterns, Marcus's heart stopped. Standing in the doorway was Captain Isabella Vale of the Imperial Guard, her armor gleaming wet from the rain. Behind her, torches bobbed in the darkness, held by dozens of guards. Yet instead of drawing her sword, she closed the door behind her and pulled down her hood. "We need to talk," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're coming for all of us." Deep within the Aquesta Cathedral, Archdeacon Hadrian Fuller traced his fingers over the ancient mosaics, their colors still vibrant after centuries. The secret chamber, hidden behind the altar, had remained undisturbed for generations until tonight. As he deciphered the images, his hands trembling, the truth began to dawn on him. The Empire's foundation was built on a lie. The sound of chanting from above masked his presence, but time was running out. He had to get this information to Royce and Hadrian before it was too late. The scratch of his quill seemed deafening as he hastily copied the crucial details. When the stone door suddenly began to grind open, he barely had time to conceal the parchment in his robes. "Your Grace," a soft voice called from the doorway. "The Regent requests your presence." In the flickering lamplight, Fuller saw not the expected acolyte, but the smiling face of Lord Ethelred. Behind him, shadows moved with purpose, and the gleam of steel caught the light. The autumn mist clung to the winding road like a ghostly veil, as Hadrian and Royce guided their horses through the dense forest. The tall warrior's armor clinked softly against his saddle, while his smaller, hooded companion remained silent as always. Their mission, to deliver a mysterious package to Gutaria, seemed simple enough until they encountered an overturned merchant's wagon. As they approached to investigate, Royce's keen eyes spotted something unusual. The tracks told a different story than the obvious signs of banditry. The merchant, Marcus Thorne, was still alive, but barely breathing. His last words spoke of a golden key and ancient doors, sending our heroes down an unexpected path. Taking shelter from the sudden storm, the duo found themselves in the ruins of an old temple. The air was thick with magic, making even the pragmatic Royce uneasy. Among the crumbling columns, they discovered ancient markings that seemed to pulse with a faint blue light. Hadrian's military experience recognized them as tactical maps, but of a land that didn't match any known geography. Their quiet exploration was interrupted by the sound of chanting. Through a broken wall, they witnessed a group of robed figures performing a ritual around a floating crystal. The scene grew more intense when one of the chanters removed their hood, revealing a face that Hadrian knew should have been dead for 10 years. Dawn broke as Hadrian and Royce pieced together the puzzle. The merchant's key, the ancient maps, and the mysterious ritual all pointed to something bigger than their simple delivery mission. But their revelation came at a cost. The temple's magic had attracted unwanted attention. As they prepared to leave, they found themselves surrounded by the Gutarian royal guard, led by none other than Commander Vale, the same man who had hired them. "I'm afraid I'll need more than just the package, gentlemen," Vale smiled, drawing his sword. The air crackled with tension as Royce noticed something odd about the commander's eyes. They were the same unnatural blue as the temple's runes. Behind them, the crystal from the night's ritual began to pulse with increasing intensity. The ancient stone corridors of Aquesta's grand cathedral echoed with footsteps as Bishop Salder moved through shadows cast by flickering torchlight. The evening mass had concluded, but the real ceremony was about to begin. In the secret chamber beneath the altar, 12 figures in crimson robes gathered around a table of black marble. Their faces remained hidden in the depths of their hoods, save for Salder's, who stood at the head of the assembly. The air grew thick with incense as he revealed the ancient scroll, the supposed proof of divine right to rule. Archdeacon Marius shifted uncomfortably as Salder spoke of their plan to manipulate the coming conclave. Yet, as the words of power and prophecy filled the chamber, none could deny the growing tension. The meeting concluded with a blood oath, but young acolyte Thomas, hidden behind a column, had heard everything. His hands trembled as he clutched the evidence that could unravel their entire scheme. As dawn broke over the city, Archdeacon Marius found himself torn between duty and conscience. The forged documents he'd been tasked to plant in the ancient archives weighed heavily in his satchel. Each step through the morning mist felt like lead as he approached the archive tower. Inside, the smell of old parchment and leather filled his nostrils as he navigated the towering shelves. But he wasn't alone. Between the rows of ancient tomes, he caught glimpses of a shadow following his movements. Sister Helena, the blind archivist, known for her uncanny ability to sense deception, was working nearby. Her unseeing eyes seemed to track his every move as he approached the restricted section. Just as he reached for the false compartment, a voice behind him whispered, "The truth cannot be buried, only transformed." The day of the conclave arrived with an unusual storm brewing over Aquesta. Thunder rolled as Bishop Salder presented the discovered prophecy to the assembled church leaders. Lightning illuminated the stained glass windows as he spoke of divine right and ancient promises. But in the gallery above, Acolyte Thomas and Sister Helena had found something in the true archives, something that changed everything. As Salder raised the forged scroll triumphantly, Thomas's hands clutched a far older document. Below, Marius caught his eye, and a silent understanding passed between them. The storm outside grew fiercer as Salder began the final rites. Then, just as he spoke the words that would seal the church's support for the empire, the cathedral doors burst open. In strode a figure that made the blood drain from Salder's face. "I believe," the figure announced, "you're reading from the wrong scroll." The assembled crowd gasped as lightning struck again, and in that brilliant flash, the truth hung suspended in time, ready to shatter centuries of carefully crafted lies.
Thank you for venturing into this realm with me. If you crave more enchanted worlds, mythical battles, and secrets whispered from ancient pages. Join the Guild of Storybound Explorers. Subscribe now and ring the bell to unlock every new quest the moment it drops. The next chapter awaits. Will you answer the call?